Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm.
If you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
From the racing world with their stories, their paths,
their racing roots.
Now here's our host, David Hamm.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm, and hope y'all had a great day. We had a great day, and we're having a good time here in the studio because we got a full house. We got a big party going on up in here, as they say, up in here, because we got Harry Gant. We've got Tracy Thompson, Hamm. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist that. Sometimes I say your middle,
That's okay. I'll forgive you.
I messed up, though. I'm supposed to turn it over to Tracy after that.
He's supposed to turn it over to me. He forgets the rules so quickly.
Yes.
So I have to remind him ever so softly.
Put the shovel down,
So
right?
tonight's show is primarily about my dad, Kenny Thompson. Right here. The genius. You have nicknames called the genius. I don't know any other of your nicknames, but I'm sure
there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Einstein. Yeah. KT. Right?
That's right. Yeah. And then to Dad's left, we have Gail, a.k.a. Wilson, the Bandit.
Oh, well, yeah.
And to Dad's right, the legendary Harry Gant. I refer to you as Handsome Harry, Mr. September. There's several other nicknames that you've got.
High Side Harry, or Hard Luck Harry. We'll have to ask you about that one.
High Groove Harry.
That's what it was.
High Groove Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to Google some of it so I could understand it, but, I did. So anyways, primarily tonight's show is about Dad, and he's got his crew members with him when he was with Harry Gant in the Skoal Bandit car. So I would like to just have all you guys say hello, and then we will start the actual interview. Bryson and Christian over there.
How's it going? How we doing?
We're doing pretty good. I think David's got you turned on.
There we go. Now we're on it. Yeah, me and Christian are over here. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
And how's the Mr. Hamm doing?
Oh, am I allowed to talk now?
Stop it.
I'm doing just fine. How's Miss Tracy?
I am excited, beyond
Yes.
excited.
Right.
My brother Dan's out in the audience. He refused to come on camera, but he's back there too. Say hello, Brother Dan.
All right, so Harry's going to hang out with us for about an hour.
Yes.
So hopefully we're going to get a bunch of stories out of y'all. I know y'all started off, before the show, you were over there telling stories, and I told Bryson, go over there and write this stuff down so he can. So hopefully, a lot of times we'll have our guests, they'll start telling stories, and then when the show starts, it's like, well, I already told that story, but they didn't tell it on air, who our listeners
we talked
wanna
about
hear,
that.
So, yeah, we did.
Well, we didn't have Harry again at first.
Yeah.
We had Stan Barrett. Now, I think he made 4 or 5 races. How many did he make?
Yeah, something like that.
Not very many.
So, Dad, to start off with, you started sweeping floors at Holman and Moody at the age of 14. Is that correct?
Cale Yarborough did too.
Cale Yarborough did too.
See what he's done.
Yeah. Yep. So you started sweeping
And
floors
Sweet
at
Savage.
16.
I don't know whether they know him or not, but he did too.
And Neil Soapy Castle started at Schumann and Thompson, sweeping floors.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
A lot of history in those jeans right there.
There you go.
And thankfully so, they've spewed over this way. Because I am your twin.
Yes.
I am your twin.
Well, that's why we were going to have your dad sit right there, but then y'all would get confused. Everybody be like, which one's...
Which
No,
one?
I'm
Which
just
one are we
kidding.
looking at?
No, actually, how many people have we met that they said, now I see that? They see the resemblance.
So out of all the guests that we've had, 9 out of 10 of them
Really?
have said, yeah, I see now. I know who your daddy is now. And before we start, I'll tell a funny story. Is Dad, you took me to a couple races when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that was when you were working for Harry. And I remember sitting in the hauler, and after the end of the race, Harry, you came in, took your fire suit off, scared me to death because I didn't realize that there was clothes on underneath your fire suit. I was like, oh my gosh, this man is changing clothes. Should I leave? What should I do? Should I just sit here? But yeah, back then I didn't realize that there was actual clothes on underneath those. But I remember that race. I think you came in 3rd that day. And it was a good memory.
Did you
Good
say that
memories.
was that Martinsville?
I don't remember which race it was.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it was.
Martinsville won Martinsville first race.
Yeah, it was first race.
I'm sure Dad took me to Rockingham and Martinsville.
Had a right front fender pointing up in the air.
Oh,
Yeah, we won 2 races. One at Martinsville, car was tore up both times, but it worked better. We do all that stuff, weighing them and measuring, getting it perfect, and just tear it up and got a half round to play on the steering wheel, and it runs faster.
wow.
But you got to start turning it at the flag stand to make the first turn.
How about that? Who would have thought that? Yes. Now, Harry, you've been to Statesville a few times, right?
Yeah, I've done a lot of house building down here. My dad did, and I did more in Hickory and around, but I helped my dad down a lot of years down here building houses.
Mm-hmm. How many houses you think you built out here?
Probably 100 or more.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? So you were born and raised here in this area, right?
About 20 miles away, yeah.
Taylorsville.
And we live in a good place. We 20. If we want more than Taylorsville's offer, we got 20 mile to Statesville, 20 mile to Wilkesboro, 20 mile to Lenore, Hickory. Just a circle right around us like a clock.
Yeah. How about that?
You're in the center of it all.
So
do you remember the first time you met Ken Thompson?
Yeah, first time I met him at Travis's.
Yeah.
I think we went down there. He was always working on something, though, some kind of gimmick.
Dad was? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't say much. He just worked.
Right. Was that like bending the rules kind of thing? He was working on stuff to try to make it better, faster, or just make it improvements on most everything?
Everything.
Yes. Well, what he done is what should have been open to everybody. It was simple things that make better, your car better, and but it in the day back there they had rules and it just stayed with them. But anything to be motor, the big thing's brakes. That was our biggest deal. Now it looks like it was tires for a while, and now it's run into each other.
Yeah. Wow.
I started off at Osterland. At one time I was at Osterland and moved next door, and Travis hired me when I was next door, but I went to work at Osterland.
Yeah. That's good.
And I think that I was working there, and Gail, I think Travis had hired him too. He'd bring me my paycheck.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What was Gail's role there? Was he a truck driver?
His job at his time, wasn't it?
Yeah. I didn't really work down there. I was up in Denver, but we'd all over the place picking up parts or whatever.
Yeah. So is that all right? When did you become a truck driver?
When they started the team, I went to work in December of '80, and then their first race was Daytona, February of '81.
Okay. So I take it you got the Bandit nickname because of working with Harry Gant and the team.
Well, yeah, the CB handle.
The CB, yes, as a CB handle, right? Yeah. Like Piccolo player, you remember him?
Oh yes.
We wrecked the last lap at Daytona, that first race. We wrecked the last lap.
With Stan?
Yeah, with Stan Barrett.
Stan Barrett.
Harry wasn't there then.
Okay. So Stan Barrett was a stuntman in the Smoking.
I guess that's what you call him. I don't know what he was.
But he was also a stuntman in the Smoking the Bandit movies, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that right? Well, anyway, he was a driver, and then his son Stanton Barrett was also a driver.
Well, Stanton was with Hal Needham, and he's owned our car, the Skoal car, and they worked together through the years with stunts, motorcycles, cowboy horses, all that stuff, and jumping off of buildings.
Oh yeah, the crazy stuff. When did was it? Let's see, Burt Reynolds. How did he get involved with that team?
Burt was filming a movie at Atlanta, Sharky's Machine, I think's what the name of it was, and they was down there, and we were staying at the same place they was, really, at the airport hotel. But anyway, they come out to race, he did, and Hal was there because Stan was driving. I was driving for Jack Beebe at the time. And I think we sat on the pole that day and led the whole race until 10 laps to go, and Cale Yarborough and myself was the only ones in the lead lap. And so we restarted. Cale went in and put 4 new tires with about 7 laps to go. Come back out on the racetrack, and they said I had enough. I didn't need to get any tires, and took off into turn 1. We had a flat tire. Picked it up right around there, and I had to go all the way around the track, but I couldn't go fast. But I was on the outside to get into the pits, and just getting down to 6 laps to go. And so I come in, they changed that tire, and I went out when Cale went by. But we had a lap on everybody, so I was still second in the lead lap. And I run the last 5 laps about wide open all the way around. Was too far gone.
Oh yeah.
But when it was over, we won something for leading the most laps. What that boat was it? Or that later on?
I don't remember.
We won something down there and had to go to the winner circle, and we sat on the pole. It was an award for something, and then you get off, and then the winner does his deal, you know. And so they was some people down there kept waving on me. I didn't know anybody that was associated with U.S. Tobacco Company, and so we come off the stage and come down. I want to start in a hurry to get to my car. Everybody park in the infield and get it over to the airport. It's just real. You walk quicker than you get out of there in a car. So we done that, and so we come back home. But the people walking there with cameras all around was Hal Needham, and Burt was in a suite at the racetrack. And so they wanted to run 2 cars. They'd been talking about it, and so Burt said to hire me, because we led that race all day. You know?
Oh, okay.
So they wanted to talk to me, and I said, I brought my guys when I run short track, I brought them down here in this old 65 Chevrolet van we had. Well, we all worked, and we had to go home. And Billy, he's a tire man, Elvin, they all worked, you know, had jobs, and we raced my car back before we went Winston Cup. So anyway, I just told them I got to go.
Yeah.
And they kept following around there, and we hurried up and got out of there and come home. And I got home, different people called me. Ned Jarrett, which I'd known Ned a long time, and Humpy Wheeler at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and Tiger Tom Pistone.
Oh, yeah.
He built my sportsman cars. His chassis. They called me up there and he said, "You've been fired." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I couldn't get any." My team was based in Connecticut, and used to qualify 2-day qualifying, and so they couldn't come for first 20 cars, and they'd get there and you qualify for 21st back. And not all the time, but sometimes it was hard. But anyway, that's what we done. And so then I kept calling Connecticut, and I couldn't get anybody, at our shop. And I said, that boy's got to be crazy or something, out there. So anyway, different people started calling me. So I said, well, I just couldn't get in touch with anybody, and they wasn't trying to get in touch with me either, but they were testing over at Bristol with Ronnie Bouchard. He used to drive for them and modified, and it wasn't like he was new. He'd been there a long time with them before. And so I just went to hunt me a job. It's like, I'll go see that guy I was talking, kept hollering for me to come down there and look. It was Johnny Hayes. I didn't know him, but that's who he ended up being, the middleman from Connecticut and California between the owner and the sponsor. And so he called me, and I was went over to see, called Bud Moore. Bud was, I was about to go driving a Ford for Bud Moore. And then I talked to another guy there at I forget his name over there now, worked over at Harry Hyde. Went to Harry Hyde, and he's a funny guy, and he had some guy in Ohio owned the car, and they was hunting a driver, and I talked to them. Then I went back home, and on the way home, I stopped down there. The Skoal shop was on 150 then, and I knew where it was at, so I went in there and talked to this Johnny Hayes in the office there, and they wanted me to drive the car. And I said, well, I don't know. We got a good team like we was that. You know, it was a good. We was growing, other than just be a long way missing the first day of qualifying. You know, but when they did, we sat on a lot of poles that year. And I was real happy where I was at there, but I was kind of let down, and it was because we didn't communicate. I couldn't get in touch with them, and they didn't get in touch with me. And I couldn't wait around because some openings are there. And anyway, then I made a deal right there in that room to drive that Skoal car. Then the next day I got to go tell these people. And Bud was tough. Old Bud Moore there, you know. And I told him, no. And then I went to see Harry High, and I dreaded that more than anything. Because I'd been there and met the crew, you know, and things. And I said, I'll let you know. Well, he just up and said, I guess you're going to drive that Skoal car. It took a lot of pressure off me. Then I went back home then. And so as time went on, we was always stayed good friends. But then one day Jack Beebe said, why I did not fire you. And I said, well, really, you didn't. This rumor was, you know. And but that's the way it ended up, to get the Skoal car right there. And so I stayed there. And you know, I don't know.
What was your first race in the Skoal car? Do you remember?
It was after Atlanta, see. I guess.
It was about 4 races into the season.
Yeah.
73 in Charlotte. Or was that a different? No, not the Skoal car. Did you ask about if that's a Skoal car?
Yeah, he said it's a Skoal car.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't have been it.
The last race at Pocono, the first race at Pocono that year, I had 2 cars on the truck, and they told me not to unload Stan's car.
Yeah.
That he wouldn't be there. So you was the man after that. Stan was out.
Yeah. Everything was moving so fast there, you know, and I was trying to make sure I made the right decision, you know, because we had some people come in like Hal. He's an actor too, but he made Smoking the Bandit, and he made a bunch of movies. Big stunt man. He's #1 stunt man. If you want to get anybody in California at the studios, you got Needham, and he told me some tales that you can understand a little bit. Stan told me a lot of things about Hal. He said he could really jump a long way to be pretty short, wasn't he? He wasn't a tall man. Yeah. And said he could jump further than anybody his size that they ever seen. Well, he's going to jump from 2 buildings several stories high to this other building. And Stan said he kept practicing on the roof, but he couldn't jump that far. So he said, what if I go down a story, jump off here and go my way down, hit the next level? And so how you don't test things like that. All they had then now is boxes, cardboard boxes. The airbags hadn't wasn't there. And so he takes off running, jumps off our feet first in a dive with his feet. And his head hit the one above him, the concrete patio.
Man. Oh, no.
Turned him a flip down on the railing of the one he went in on his back and broke his back. Oh. So they got him fixed back up, but he's always, but he'd do things like that, and he was a double stunt man for Have a Gun Will Travel on that series, Richard Boone. But he played Western with John Wayne, and really a lot of movies. I see him. I watch Westerns a lot, and I'll just look for who's in there. And then once he's in there, you saw him, and you didn't. You know, he's got a cowboy outfit on now. Yeah. So he got with Burt, and they made that Smoking the Bandit. And they made a lot of movies there. Hooper that they made, and he loved racing though. Sometimes I wonder how he could.
I think they lived together at the same house.
Yeah. He moved in Burt's guest house.
Oh, okay.
And he stayed there 11 years.
Good friendship.
Yeah. He wasn't married, and Burt wasn't married then until he married, Lonnie. Yeah. That I always WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, yes.
Lonnie
But
Anderson.
yeah, she's real nice. She come to a lot of the races, and filming. We filmed a bunch, didn't we, Gail?
Sure did. We went to Charlotte and watched them.
Yeah. And they make commercials.
Yeah. Were you involved with Stroker Ace at all? Stroker Ace?
Yeah.
Because we had Will Cronkright in here last week, and we were talking about that, and he was talking about Lonnie Anderson, and he was talking about they had an air hose set up, and it sat overnight, and they were just going to blow her dress up, is what they were supposed to be doing in the process.
Had the air hose.
Yeah, they had the air hose, and Johnny Hayes took the air hose and shot the air, but it was full of water, and it just like soaked her down.
Oh, no.
Yes, and I thought I remembered him saying it
condensation.
was like dirty water in there too, so it just and so they had to get cleaned up. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things happen there with Al, and making them movies, and he is at Talladega, and he's going to film at Daytona and Talladega, but you can't go to all them places. Talladega, so they built overhead like Daytona's got, and hang the signs up there, and. I couldn't drive unless you was a member of the Stuntman Association or the contractor with the producers and all. The stuntman drives a car, race cars.
Oh, okay.
So we had a bunch of show cars down there. And Gail, most all of them was really show cars. And so all those guys are driving them. And in Talladega, it's a long way around. So I was down there, and Hal says, "Come on," told them guys what to do. Come by here, take the green, go down the back stretch, and spin them out.
Yeah.
And so, but they didn't know. Hal didn't know that they're going to start racing. You're not going to take it easy when you got a track like that with them guys. And so, anyway, we get up in the flag stand, and they come by and give it to gas. Pretty good. They're probably running 150 around there. They won't have real strong engines in most show cars. But anyway, they went down the back stretch, and they come around and. Hal, he's shaking his head. It wasn't what he wanted. So they went down the back stretch the next time and spun out. And so the rest of them kept going. Now they're racing. He gets down on the racetrack. At Talladega and Daytona both, the sun's setting down in the first turn, and it's shadow, and you can't see. And at Talladega, the start-finish line is way down and going into one. And so Hal, and I still up in the stand. He walks down on the track. Here they come off that fourth turn down through there, and they didn't know he was standing there. Yeah. And it's probably running 130, 40 mile an hour. Cars went every direction. He just stood, and I know one going. There's 12 cars, I believe. That's what he had. Yeah. You always fake it, make it look like more. Yeah. And but that was, but that's the way it was. And then I had a part in there, and I had to get to join the Screen Actors deal to be able to drive it. You couldn't even move a truck.
Wow. I've always wondered about that. Like, did y'all actually get to get in the car and drive it? I guess not. It's just the way it was.
A long time ago, at Hickory Speedway, they made a movie about Junior Johnson, and it was Jeff Bridges was 19, I think, and he played Junior Junior Jackson, and they drove our cars, and so the racing ones we raced on Saturday night there, and so this guy Bill William Smith played in that movie, Rich Man, Poor Man, big muscled up guy, about 6'6", and he's going to drive my car. And he needs to know how to get in, how to get out, and to where he'll be right. And so I showed him. Okay, I get in the floorboard over there, and he gets on the wheel. And we go up on the racetrack in at Hickory Speedway, and it's dirt down on the shoulder, Well, he went around there, and he went up that dirt this wide. I said, "Get over on the track." And man, I sat there, and he's holding that thing wide open up the back stretch. And I said, "Whoa." Yeah. I got out when I come in there, but he wanted to make it like it was, and he did. And they filmed that movie. It made a lot of headlines. It's about Junior Johnson, it's bootleg and stuff like that. And it turned out to be. But I look at the movie now, and them boys are so young. Now they're so old,
I know.
like me.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I was
Junior
older than
Jackson.
they was then, know.
Yeah.
And it,
I've seen that one.
but
How old are you now? 82?
80,
83.
83.
I did my
Thanks, Tracy.
research.
Yeah.
You'd like to be 82.
Your birthday's January 10th.
That's right.
January 10th.
Do what?
Yeah, we're all January the 10th is your
January
birthday.
the 10th.
And yours is in January too, right,
Eighth.
Kenny?
January
January
8th.
8th. And mine's the 21st.
You 83?
No, not 83. 76.
76. How about that? Well, Gail, when's your birthday?
May the 30th.
Okay.
And I'll be 80.
Oh, all right. Wow, how about that? So, what role did you have in these movies? I know you done some cars for the movies or something.
Some
Kenny?
fabrication.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically that was it.
What did you have to do to the cars? And did you do that in the shop, or did you do that at your shop?
I did it at the shop, not at my shop.
Okay, yeah, that was over at the which shop was it?
So I think the most famous car is the Smokey and the Bandit car.
Yeah, those cars. Did you have those cars come in the shop there with?
Well, Sandra, our secretary, she ended up with one of them, with that Pontiac.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to it, and I remember having a tag on it. I don't know what happened. She might still have it.
Wow. Okay. There was probably a bunch of those cars though, right? I mean, that they used for the movie, I guess.
I think they used several
And-
for each movie.
Yeah.
They used 12
12.
in the movie.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. But then the show cars that they used in the racing movies, those come out of your shop too, right? I mean, the Skoal Bandit cars.
Yeah, if it's doing making a movie, really it's for commercials. The movie was,
Okay.
but now he had stroke race and all ammo. He had used show car. At Charlotte there, they had the camera stuff all set up there, and then that old show car brought down there. It was just an old car. You jack it up high, and the guy wanted to lay off coming off the fourth turn or in the fourth turn coming off of Charlotte. And so I get in that old car, and it's just got a motor. It's not supposed to go real fast.
Yeah.
And I come around there, and it's a long way around. And they say, come in. I didn't have a radio, but and that cameraman wanted to go faster. Oh, you can't hardly steer it anyway. It wasn't even set up. I'm doing maybe 100. And so instead of going all the way around, I'd go down the back stretch and turn around and take off. And I'd, about 120, but you still use in doubt what this thing's going to do.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to run right against him. And he was laying against the guardrail.
Wow.
And shoot, that's hard to do. I mean, even at 120, you can do it in a race car, 6 inches away at 200.
Right, yeah.
But somebody laying there, his head sticking up and that blanket laying on it. And I come around there, and I looked up in the mirror, and that blanket was on top of it. And then they say, what we done, we took Johnny Bruce's car down there on pit road and slid it sideways, and you had to come in there, the cameraman down there, and you got to come in there about 110 to make it turn road car, and the whole trunk was filled full of batteries, and a man in the back seat. And
the
he's
cameras.
filming this thing, so you got to. Yeah. And I asked Humpy, I said, you got a water truck from that dirt track back there? And they well, wet it down up here and make it easier. This is a road car, 78 Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
With 200-pound batteries and 200-pound man and a big old camera in the back seat. And so old Stad, he showed me that trick on the handbrake. You push handbrake with your foot on the car, pull that lever out and bend it down so it can't go back in. So the handbrake is a foot brake, and it comes back out. But you can cock the car with your foot instead of all steering wheel. And you come in out there in a road car, everything in it bottoms out, and you come on that pit road, doing about 100, and pop that thing sideways and like that, and back sideways, and you're going towards that camera all.
Yeah.
We got it done. No, got it all done.
Yeah.
But anything that Hal done, see, he took charge of the U.S. Tobacco, was advertising on television, all that, and then everywhere. he got so let him be the producer, and he saved him a whole lot of money, and he done it raw. I mean, everything we done, just like all them people at Talladega and all around, but he done it better.
Was one of his movies? Was it the Fastest Chicken? What was that movie that? Dan knows that one. Stroker Ace. Yeah. Okay. That's still
What's the
Stroker Ace.
fastest something come out of that?
Fastest chicken in the South.
Fastest
Okay,
Chicken in the
okay.
South. Yeah. Okay.
Had them chicken feet.
I love that. That's a great one.
Well, let's say hey to the guests that are tuned in on live air. We've got Mike Bear. He says, hello, everyone. DRPPR, which I'm assuming means Dr. Pepper 76, says, hello, everyone. Mike Bear says, Harry was my grandfather's favorite. I have his old Harry Gant Bandit trucker hat. Dickie Dennis is tuned in. Dickie Dennis is the infamous fence climber back in.
Okay, so were you watching a race in 2014 at Richmond when this guy climbed up on the fence and they stopped a race to get him down off the fence? He was on top. Yeah, he was just like, hey.
Somebody got
That's
a car
him.
and made a lap or two
Yes.
around Charlotte.
That too, yeah. There's all kinds of
don't know who
videos
that
out there.
was.
These guys, but that's our good friend Dickie Dennis.
So he's up in Virginia. He's listening in. Josephus.
Almost like
Hey, Josephus.
pace car at Talladega. There was a guy that did that one too. Now that was a while.
Yeah.
ago. Still in
Yeah.
the pace car there.
Yes.
Josephus says, what's up, everybody? Dr. Pepper 76 says, Harry Gant is cool. I respect Harry for what he's done for the sport. Leland Johnson says, good evening, Tracy and David, along with such distinguished guests. Scott
Good evening.
Trevison, Beerman, says, hello from Daytona. Mike Bear says, did you have a driver you looked up to, and if so, who was it? Dad?
What kind of suit?
What, did you have a favorite driver that you looked up to, and who was it?
No, I don't know. I thought you asked about a suit.
No, this is a quiz on who your favorite driver was. Who did you look up to? What driver?
Whoever
did
he
you?
is working for.
Yeah, pretty much probably at the
That's not
time.
the way it goes.
That's right. That's right, Harry.
Yeah.
Harry, did you have a favorite
to that.
driver that you looked up to?
David Pearson.
Yeah, always. I went to. I got to go to Darlington when I was 15 years old, 1955. And my dad, we went to all the races, but not down there. When Winston Cup cars used to race Hickory, and the short tracks dirt, and Bogle 63 Fords and Chevrolets running Hickory dirt right there. And so Darlington was only in that year super speedway, and we went down there and they started 3 wide. And they just taped the headlights on those 55 Ford and Chevrolets. And they just much stock car, and it had a roll cage in them. And we went down there, and I think Jimmy Thompson, I think, won the race at Chevrolet. And then I went back every year until this. I went down there last year, but I left. It was raining on, but I went to Darlington. And then I got to race there. The biggest thrill was on the start there was Speedy Thompson and Rex White from Taylorsville, and I pulled for them. And golly, Martin, he said on Farball Roberts.
Yes.
Farball sat on the pole down there in '57 and won the race, and then then the next year in '58, he won it again in '57. So we got to look at that. I mean, that sounded real good. And they was introducing the drivers. They got, and then it didn't take them long to get to 2 wide instead of 3, but they run on the apron. It was just flying around that racetrack. But Bud Moore, he won somewhere along in there, and he told me that he sent somebody downtown and got truck tires. About 4 new truck tires to put on his car for the pit stop. Everybody's blowing tires out.
Yeah,
and
I've heard that
you'd be
too.
sitting there watching the race, and it'd boom, everybody would jump up, and you looked the way they're looking. Seen Cale go over the guardrail didn't even touch it.
Yeah, about
And
that.
everybody the thing just flew out of there upside down.
They used to start on the
Yeah.
other side of the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he come out there, jumping up and down on that guardrail. Had guardrails in, and he jumped up and down on that guardrail, waving his hands. It was okay. Everybody thought he was gone.
But our good friend Bill Blair's talked about the truck tires before. His dad used to run. He ran like 39 Ford, and back in the day, he won Daytona in 1953. But he also wanted me to tell you hello. His first race he went to was in 1940. At High Point Speedway, I believe it was back then. And but he has this thing every year, Moonshiners and Racers Reunion, September the 8th and the 9th. It's up in Mount Airy, and he wanted to invite all of y'all, each one of you, to that because it's a very cool deal. I mean, there's so many people. They bring out the old cars.
Oh, yeah.
There's some moonshiners there. You sit around, you sign autographs all day, probably 1,000 autographs, but it's cool. You get to meet a lot of good people. So.
Oh yeah. I'll go up there some. Have a car shows up there, and then they had this Moonshiners convention over at North Wilkesboro too. Back in where Benny Parsons' house, his old house.
Okay. Yeah.
And they.
Well, Bill called me the other day. Yesterday he was at the Call Family Distillery. He was out there, and have you the Call family? Willie Clay Call. He was a moonshiner back in the day.
Oh.
But anyway. Yeah,
We'll
talk about that.
We're
again
actually
closer
having a
time.
Moonshiners Festival at Hickory Motor Speedway here in a couple of weeks.
Are you?
So, I think it might be the same one that was at Wilkesboro, and I think they moved it to Hickory. But it's they're going to take over the whole infield of the racetrack and put that on. So I'm looking forward to that. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, Bill Blair's supposed to bring his car out there to. I think it's 39 Ford, and maybe it's 53 Olds. They're supposed to bring it to North Wilkesboro
Yeah, he has both
for
of
the
them.
race. Yeah.
And earlier, I was actually doing research, and I found that the first race that they ran the Skoal, or Harry Gant was in the Skoal Bandit car was in the...
Talk into the mic.
Yeah.
No, straight into it.
Sorry.
There you go.
So I found that the first race that Harry Gant was in the Skoal Bandit car, from the research I did, was the 81 American 500 at Rockingham, which was at the time North Carolina Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
He finished third in that race, led over 100 laps. But the Mount Airy event they have every year is absolutely great, and it's cool to see all the racing pioneers of the sport, and not only that, but moonshiners get together and see each other again, and it's fun. The last few years has been fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. One more thing. Sherry Bell Wilson had said her dad used to hang out with you, Harry. Johnny Bell says tell you hello. Johnny Bell. He lived here in Statesville, apparently. He used to hang out with you,
So back to the comments. Dargan Watts says, I remember Harry Gant winning at Columbia Speedway in 1971. He was so well known that his name was spelled G-A-N-T-T in the Columbia newspaper the next day.
Oh.
Dr. Pepper 76.
Yeah, regular Thursday night.
Yeah.
Thursday night we raced to Columbia, and then Friday night we'd race Asheville or either Kingsport, Tennessee. And then Saturday night we'd normally race Hickory or wherever, a bigger race, and then run Sunday, and then go to work Monday and
Wow.
work Monday night and Tuesday night and Wednesday night on the car. Then I was building houses down here, send the car to Columbia, and I'd wait till about 5 o'clock because I was working for my dad here then. And I'd go take my car wide open. Wasn't no interstate except right there close to the racetrack, 26. But it was all 321 all the way.
Okay. Yeah, I know where that's.
If I didn't get there, I just said get somebody to qualify it. And then we'll be okay.
Wow.
One day the mechanic sat on the pole.
How about that? He went out there and qualified it for you. Yeah.
Dr. Pepper 76 also says, before taking the wheel of the Skoal Bandit, Mr. Gant drove the red 77 Chevelle in the late model series.
Yeah.
Josephus has a question. He says, Mr. Kenny, what's your racing accomplishments or car or motor you built that you're most proud of?
Well, I don't know.
So many, right?
I've done a little bit of everything.
What's your favorite that you've done?
Well, I built that GT40.
Yeah. You
Took me
ended up
7
doing
years to do it. Well, I did 7 cars.
seven total.
He built a motorcycle to do about 200 miles an hour with an
Did he
automatic
really?
transmission.
Did you really?
So we haven't heard about that one.
I didn't. That's interesting. Oh,
A lot
Lord.
of them.
I've got a Thunderbolt now. One of 427 Ford Thunderbolts. They made 100 of them.
Yeah.
I've got one of those.
So, Dargan Watts actually had a question also. Another one. He said, was your father involved in the Buddy Schumann, Willie Thompson team back in the 50s?
Yeah.
Was awesome. And another one, Will Concrete just asked, Tracy, did your dad build more than one of those GT40 cars?
Yes, he's built 7.
Okay.
Danny and Gray's Cards and Toys says, the legendary Harry, I want to say thank you personally so much for always being so kind to sign my stuff I've sent to you over the years. Greg Gould says, good evening. Jonathan Woolridge says, this is so awesome. And Will Cronkite says, good evening, folks. I'm late arrival working on my Humvee. He's got a Humvee. And Dargan says, what was your father involved in? Yeah, you just read that one.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Rodriguez says, this is a great show. My kiddo, Andrew, is listening in. He says, hello, Mother, Dave, Papa Kenny, and everyone else. And that's it for the comments.
Andrew might learn a little bit about his family history.
There you go.
Yes. Did you know Will Cronkite? You know Will. You know
yeah.
Will too, right, Kenny? Yeah, and you know,
Yeah, I know
Will.
Will, yeah.
Will's been around a long time. He was first. He provided the first competitive race car for Earnhardt in 1978.
Steve Cook worked there. You remember Steve?
Yeah.
He worked for Will Concrete.
At White Crown Engineering.
Yeah.
White Crown. Yeah. Down in Fort Mill. Yes.
Yep.
All right, Tracy, was that it on the questions?
That was it on the question so far.
Okay. I had one comment from Angie. Do you know Kristen Angier? Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Does Harry remember a motorcycle trip where he crashed? It ended up in the hospital where supposedly injured spleen. Then you went working on a fence the next day that you got out of the hospital. Yeah. So I guess you probably remember that. That's probably a painful memory though.
Yeah. Now, sometimes I just come to in time to race.
Yeah.
We're testing tires at Charlotte, and they just paved the track. And the Goodyear, when we come down there in that Firebird, we won Daytona with it, and won Charlotte too. It's had about 800 horsepower, and it's just 2,800-pound car. And so we took it down to Charlotte and tested. And it was just really fast, way faster than a Winston Cup car, and it was lighter though. I don't know what the deal was with it, you know. They wasn't going to run that fast. So anyway, we test all day, and so the next day they want me to come back and run one test, one tire they had, but they want me to run like I believe it's 10 laps or maybe a little more, but anyway, more than you normally do. And so at 10 o'clock that morning, and you had to be at Darlington the next morning, you know, qualify. And so I run like, we didn't have no radios there, and they held the sign up. But when you test tires, you test it right on the edge, but you don't go that you can't tell them. Out of 20 sets, you got to tell them which one's the best tire, and they got to figure it out. But anyway, what you do, I run all those tires. They wanted to come back at 10 o'clock, and I took my dad with him. First time he'd ever been inside a racetrack, and I took him with me down there. And I run whatever laps I run. They held that sign said run 2 more laps, and I thought I'd just, you know, take it down a little bit more, you know. And we was doing about 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I was going down the back stretch, and this is I started to make the turn. It right front tire blowed out.
Oh no!
It just went straight. It could go in the wall. And Earnhardt had come out there watching that test, and it hit and just bounced off real fast, and it went down this Miss Pit Road and went. It'd been raining the night before, and the grass was wet, and it went flying down through that grass, just pushing up dirt. And all the way up on the bank in turn 1. And my helmet, Earnhardt said, was turned sideways.
Oh, my gosh.
Knocked the mirror out and busted the seat, fiberglass seat, busted, and had 2-inch shoulder straps on it. And but I didn't remember nothing, you know.
Oh, okay.
And so then later on that night, around 10 o'clock, I could hear people talking, and they'd roll you around. That old table was cold as ice, and roll you around. Yeah, that there's broke. Yeah, that's fractured. Yeah, they said. And then I heard them say, "We're going to send him to where you test your brain."
Oh no.
Oh,
And
get an MRI.
I couldn't even remember that. I remember him saying that, and I didn't remember riding or anything. Next time I woke up, it was about midnight, and they put that stuff and make you wake up smelling salts, you know. Mm-hmm. And I got up. I felt pretty good though, and they said, told Johnny Bruce, he was with me, and we was going to leave to come home about 1 o'clock, and he said, for me not to go to sleep. I had a really bad concussion. Everything else was just messed up, kind of. But I couldn't breathe real good. And so we come home, got home around 2 something. I laid there on the couch, and then we got to go to Darlington. He said, "Shorty ain't going to Darlington." I said, "If you drive me down there, I am." And we got down to Darlington, and they was through qualifying. What not through? They had 30 minutes left. And by that time, I couldn't even walk out of that van. I was in.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the soreness hadn't set in real good. And it was starting to. And I walked by my car, sat there, Beebe. I drive from Jack Beebe. And they already had another driver lined up. There's 30 minutes left to qualify. And so he said, "You going to race?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, get your uniform on." I went in the truck, and I couldn't even take my britches off. I put that uniform on. I got undressed, and JB got that uniform on. There's one step on the back of our truck to step in. I couldn't get up when I first got in. That's 8-inch probably. I got back over there, and it's real strange. I'm just going to get 2 laps in, but I still couldn't breathe real good. Just a little short breaths. And I know I wasn't going to get my leg up there to get in that window.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I messed around and got in, and then I was hurting, really hurting. I told Bertie, I said, "Push me back here." And they did, and they got back, and I said, "Come over here." He said, "What else?" I said, "I can't flip that switch on." "What?" I said, "Crank the car up."
Wow.
He cranked it up. And I went down pit road. They pushed me off. I cranked it and geared and went on down through there, and I went up on the racetrack, and I was going to get me a breath. Well, see, I was just already down. I could hold it for 22 seconds to run the track, but I wasn't prepared. And then I tried it, and I couldn't breathe. Oh, it really something like stuck in me. I took off around. I come down. I just could tell that guy was waving a green flag. And I went to turn 1 and 2. And then down the backstretch, these things is floating by your eyes like fish eyes, I call them, little circles.
Yeah.
And you start smelling this stuff I could put you to sleep with. You start smelling that for some reason.
Really? Wow.
And I went around the turn, and I come down, and now I can't hardly even see that flagman up there. And got the first lap of the white flag. Well, I couldn't go again. And I'm going to pass out. And I went down the backstretch pretty hard. And then I just had to be the best I could get down the apron. And Henry Benfield was standing there. He gave me a shirt. He wrapped me all up with this bungee stuff. And I'm telling you, and I saw him standing there, and that's all I remember there. And somebody took a knife and cut it, and they did. I just hit the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
And so took me back to the hospital, and I stayed in there till real late. And that was like on Thursday, I believe, because first round on Thursday, qualifying, and ended up third. And then I come home from the hospital and stayed in bed all week. They couldn't find what it was, and I didn't go back till Sunday morning. So I went back down there Sunday morning. I was really sore then. I wasn't no better. They gave me a shield, give me here, and all that old stuff, and had my neck. I couldn't hold my neck up, and tied a water hose around and just sort of held it in my teeth. And so we ended up third. And and so we started racing. Terry LeBon and Pearson was in front, and I was right there behind them. And so we started running, and it was daylight, I guess it was around 1 or 2 o'clock, something like that, and it was daylight. And so we started running, racing, and my car's good, and I'm just right there all the time, right there. Well, then it started drizzling rain, and we like 10 laps being halfway, and I'm still running third. So they pulled us all down pit road, and they started covering the cars up. Well, I couldn't get out. I done had stuff here and hooked to the seat over here, and I just stayed in there. But what I done though, before the race, they had a little, I call it the hospital. It's about an 8x8 cot.
Makeshift hospital.
Yeah, they stuck me full of medicine all around every rib, up my back and up here and down through here, all the way from the collarbone. It was cracked too, you know, and the shoulder blade. And they went all the way down through there and two up the back and two to the front. Wow. And I was in good shape. And then I went to sleep in that car. I couldn't get out, and I just went sound asleep. Well, I woke up, and it was dark, and I had no idea where I was at. Wow. I looked around, it was daytime, but it's dark. And it come a thunderstorm, and it thundered lightning. They covered that car, and I didn't even know it. Well, they jerked that cover off, and cars are cranking up. And they come on the radio and said, "Fire them engine." I fired it off there, and it's missing. I said, "Bob, this thing's missing." He said, "How it could miss running good when I stopped, you know?" And he said, "Just clear it out, it's water." And I rushed the motor. It wasn't no better. And they given one to go, and they come on the radio and said it's going to run 20 laps. Then they changed it to 10. Going to run 10 laps and call it a race. We'll be halfway. And it had to take the green. He couldn't count the cautions after. It just liked a few laps, but that's the way you do it, score it when it rains like that. So anyway, and I told my spotter, tell whoever's behind me that my car's missing real bad, and give me a little slack, taking off. And I backed up, and then going down the backstretch, they said, to close that gap up, or they going black flag. And I picked it up a little bit and got it. Then when I was running around the turn, they ain't going to change it now. And they guys got that green flag ready. And so I just kept fading back. And just about the time I timed it pretty good, because I took off. And just about the time I was to the next car, they threw the green, so that boy didn't bump into me, but he knew I couldn't go. So it stayed up, you know, around the turn, but then down the backstretch, you could fall back about probably 3 car lengths, and then you go in the turn, and you know now you're getting they run just like that. That's the way it's going to be. But Pearson was just dying to pass Terry, and he was all over it, and I know something's going to happen, and so whenever they give the white flag, went down the first turn, and I'd already tried it in 3 and 4, not lifting it, missing, and I could just ride and get them, but then you'd go 3 car lengths back, and 3 and 4 was easier really than 1 and 2. I just done it 2 times, and then Pearson dived under him, hit that apron, took the white flag, and he got sideways really big, and he hit Terry, and here I come wide open. Well, I got to slam the brake on, because Pearson, but they both went up like that. But once I lifted him back, I mashed it back down. And Terry, he straightened up. He didn't hit nothing, and I got just about halfway up on him, and here he went. And it didn't do me good, you know. But we ended up finishing second. And Pearson, he after we all went by, he got on the apron and went in the pits. And so you raced to the flag then, you know. That was the rule then. Yeah. And so we finished second. Then on the scoreboard, they changed us before I come in the pits to third. And said, I passed Pearson on the yellow flag. Well, we both did. He's up against the wall. Yeah. And Terry went by. And that's what they said. They said, well, the yellow light, well, it don't matter. The yellow light don't count. You race to the checkered flag. And you know, BB was a good man, but he was not in the mix. You know, he was from Connecticut. And the Wood Bros, I reckon, said that, you know, that the yellow light was on going into the third turn. It was on, and it flashed, and that's when it come on. We was just nearly there. But you raced around. We beat Pearson to the flag. It didn't make no difference where he was at. And he said, well, he got the flag coming down pit road, but he was still sitting, you know, trying to get down. Yeah. He hit well, pretty good, you know. And so, but anyway, that's one deal. But I run that whole race. And after the race, I started breathing again.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But we
That's
had
a
all
crazy
kind of
story.
deals like that to happen all the time, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Beebe used to drive a Rolls Royce.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have that out in the field out there.
Yeah, he had one new, and then he had one that was real valuable, an old one.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, had that square back on it. He had a lot of cars, all of them are pretty much 40s. And he bought them, and they're all black. And I said, who painted these cars? He said, that they come that way. And didn't have no miles on hardly any of them.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember.
Barry, I was wanting to ask you real quick. So in '91 you won at Talladega, but in September you won 4 races. You won the 4 straight. In fact, you won at Darlington, Richmond, Dover, and Martinsville. I was wanting to ask you if you could recall that month of September and everything that transpired, because that was a fantastic month for you and that team.
It's just one of them deals. Leo Jackson built the engines himself, and we had a calculator in there that come out of a helicopter, and it would measure how much gas.
We had that too.
Yeah, passed through it. Well, they outlawed it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, NASCAR did. And all you had to do when you come to the pits is switch it off yourself. Clear it.
Yeah.
And you had to watch a mirror, that gas man, and you hit it. And when you see him, then you come in and it's showing you here how much you used, on the gauge right there. And it was on 19 something come in. That's what it held, what that gauge said. So,
I remember that gauge.
but then NASCAR said that it ain't available for everybody. It come out in California. Hal got it out of a helicopter junkyard.
Yeah.
But the simple thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everybody had it. It'd be good for it. But now, when I talk to some people about these new cars, you can stay at your garage. Richard Childress was telling me you can stay at your garage and you know how much gas your car's using at the racetrack.
Yeah.
And the other people's cars too.
Yeah. That's wild, isn't it? It takes away a lot of the ingenuity and stuff, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So Bradley Fulbright says, "Hey Bandit, Brittany Fulbright is watching."
Oh, yeah. Hey, Brittany.
And then I Believe in the Rock says, "Awesome stuff." James S. says, "Hey guys, caught you late, but it's a great show as always." Josephus says, "Question, Mr. September, how close did you come to making it 5 races in a row?"
It just seemed like everything was going our way, and the car was good, really good, and but we had luck, we didn't
It was
run out of
Oldsmobile,
gas.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it's those. It's a good race car, a really good race car. Now the ones all of them were close, but just the grill and Oldsmobile was flat, about 4.5 inches, and the deck lid was a little longer than a Chevrolet and a little higher, so it's put everything up. It did. I know we took the body off, put put aluminum body on the same chassis, and you couldn't. That thing would just plow the front end. It was too much
light on the
weight.
front.
Before they caught it, huh?
Yeah, but nobody was racing about one other Oldsmobile. Yeah. Somebody had those. What's that guy? Blue one had that yellow lettering on the side there. But wasn't nobody running Oldsmobile. Leo and Richard
Stacy.
had 2 of them. But that was a good. Everything that taught me a whole lot about aerodynamics of the car.
What about the aluminum fenders at Talladega? Didn't we mention that before the show? Kenny was talking about that. Statute of limitations.
Well, we didn't have any steel. We'd tore it up or something and had to leave Talladega. I think he had to be there Wednesday or Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then I panicked to get them and didn't have anything. All we had was some aluminum. So I made 2 aluminum front fenders. And right near the end of the race, it might have been 2 or 3 laps to go, we wrecked. And
Yeah.
I don't know, somebody told us squealed on us, and Dick Beatty came over there
Oh,
and said, Travis said, how about those aluminum fenders?
Yeah.
Travis said, they're nice, ain't they?
that's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, that was out there, a Wizard car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a Chuck Gay car.
Yeah, Chuck Gay. It made a narrow car. When that's about the only time we run it, wasn't it?
Not very many times. That's about the only time he run that car,
Yeah,
really.
it was. We just used to
Bought
run
it from
flat
Junior.
out, you know, and we'd get down towards the end of the race, and Bobby, he was leading the race, but he had spoiler push flat, and he was running real high. You know, and my car, I just running low, and you didn't have to lift it or anything, and we just running kind of spaced out about fifth, and directly I caught the fourth place car, you know, and went by him. Gail was third, and I passed him, you know, and passed Tim Richmond, and that put us right behind Donnie, getting the white flag,
Yeah.
going down, and I just kept coming. And when Bobby goes up, I just kept going to run my same place, and I couldn't make my mind up where to. It seemed like I was faster. I called everybody from like fifth place up, and I knew I could. And I passed Tim, and so Tim, we come. I just stayed low, and I was just coming by just like passing somebody for a Sunday evening drive, and all of a sudden my car turned sideways.
Oh.
Tim, I guess he went out behind me when I was pulled out to pass Bobby. Well, I was really over where I was at anyway, and all of a sudden it keeps turning, and Bobby just barely missed him, and it went up on the wall. Them two wheels and them two outside wheels was on top of the concrete, and it slid on the side down there and come back down. It's got
like-
them aluminum fenders.
Sounds like Days of Thunder movie there.
Well, there wasn't no advantage to having aluminum fenders on a car at Talladega,
Yeah.
but that's what we made them out of. That's all we had at the time.
Now you had to put those in the English wheel and roll it out, the aluminum, I guess. I mean, is that how you
Well, we
made
didn't
it?
have English wheel then.
Oh, what did you use? How'd you do it then?
I don't know exactly.
Probably beat it with a hammer.
Yeah, there was probably a hammer involved.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sheet metal brake, that kind of stuff.
One of my favorite times with Harry was we were testing at Charlotte, and it had rained, but the track had got dry. But there was down between 1 and 2, there was a spot up in the middle of the track where the water would seep out of it. And they said, "Wonder if it's dry down there yet?" And I said, "Well, I'll walk down there and see." So I walked down there, and it was dry. So I keyed up my radio, and I said, "It's dry down here." And Harris was in the car. He said, "Well, just stay down there. I'll pick you up. You won't have to walk back." So he come
nice.
down there, and I crawled in the right window, and he wound her up down the back stretch. We got to pit road. He just kept going. I said, "Uh-oh."
Hang on.
I locked around the roll bar, and we made a fast lap. I won't never forget that one. That was good times there.
That was nice of you, Harry. Pick it up.
Everybody needs to ride sometime with another race car.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So, Harry, how did you feel? You got the NASCAR's 50th greatest drivers. You know, now they're doing the 75 greatest drivers. What you got picked for the top 50? That's a big honor.
Yeah.
Very big.
He needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree.
Very much so.
Yeah, definitely do. For sure. Yep. Tracy, did you get a?
Yes. Let's see. After Josephus's, there's T-Chaps. Seen a video Andy Petrie did discussing the September car, and he says the biggest thing was he was the first one to figure out how to put camber in the rear tires. Is that true?
I don't know, really. Leo didn't believe in it, really.
Camber in the rear ends?
Yeah. He said it's we was probably the last ones to do that, but he said it's just going to tear up our axle pan.
Yeah.
And he's real conscientious metal. That's his job. I mean, he stole parts. Stuff that's real, just hard. And he told me one day he made all kind of things for General Motors and Ford and the Air Force, and they was making stuff all the time up there. But he knew metals, but he just said it just don't seem like your bearing can. It ain't like the front end, you know, where
Yeah.
you can, and this thing's solid, you know, axle in it.
Yeah.
But, we twisted axle Dover, and was leading the race, and really good. Just riding 500 miles, and all of a sudden, somebody blowed the motor going in turn one. Buddy Arrington, at Dodge, and the caution come out. It's going to be an easy win, and the caution come out. And we're going around the racetrack, and there was a few laps to go. And they're putting stay dry and clean it up, and there's about 4 laps to go. And come around, and they said, how's it look? The car started jerking sideways, the caution. Something's wrong here. It's really jerking hard. And he said, I said, it can't start. Ain't no way you can throw the green. It's going to be a big crash. Going to be a green-white checking. And they said, well, they're going to take off whether you want to or not. I said, I'm not going to take off. And I said, it's just going to be a wreck. Kept arguing. And finally they said they're going to finish another caution. And I come down pit road, and that thing was jerking sideways like that. And when it's out ready to turn, it wouldn't turn into the winner's circle.
Oh.
That axle, Travis put a hauler axle.
Yeah.
And that thing twisted.
Oh.
And it made it 500 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, we won Dover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had that is a good part of racing, and whenever we raced, and now it's it looks to me like it'd be they can drive those cars real good though, because they do that simulator. I've never seen a simulator, but they say it's just like. And I was talking to a fellow that owns a car. He said you can set it up right there. The engineers offer that what you do, and they can. 19, 8 years old, 18, so might be probably 15. That little Gibbs boy. But you can they set it up,
That's how some of the drivers now got their start, doing the
iRacing.
iRacing and stuff. Okay.
There's a lot of late model drivers that come through Hickory. We see on Saturday nights, and they spend a lot of times doing late model stuff in them simulators. So it's a big part of what we do now.
Up at all. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, well, these bigger, like Joe Gibbs and all these organizations, they've got smaller teams that trickle down into the late model stuff, and then, Dale Jr.'s got a late model entry, so there's a lot of technology that people don't realize. I don't think how much goes into just the Hickory stuff these days.
Well, you can see them on the track.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a break, and Harry, are you going to stick around, or did you need to go somewhere, because you said something about getting your wife Hardee's or something?
No, I got to pick her up a sandwich.
Yes. So I didn't want to hold you up, but we're going to take a break, and then I guess we'll figure out if you're going to stick around or if you're going to go to do that. And so we'll be right back. We got Harry Gant and Ken Thompson and Gail Wilson in with us on Racing Roots with Hamm. Don't go anywhere.
Real Country 550 and 92.9 WAME. Listen anywhere at WAMEradio.com.
All right, we're back to Racing Roots with Hamm, and we've got. So I went ahead and come back because we got a new computer system here at the radio station, and
No warning whatsoever. We're back.
well, I mean, I didn't have your mic on until just now, so it's okay. Yeah, it takes a little bit of. Sorry, Bryson.
No, you're good.
There
It's
you
all
go.
right. It's hard to figure that out. I got about a 15-minute crash course the other day when we were doing the sports show, and it's we're learning about it, but it's hard to switch to something new right there.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
now that we're back, I want to say a special hello to the Sigmund family. My boss, Emily, Keith, her husband, her kids, Micah, and Brooklyn are listening in. So, hey, guys, thanks for listening. Brooklyn recognized my voice.
Oh, is that right?
She did. She recognized my voice.
That's nice.
So Turbo 14 says,
She's cool.
what did Harry like about the front steer versus the rear steer? I saw pictures of his rear steer car while others ran front steer.
I wouldn't.
What did you like about the front steer versus the rear steer?
About the first year.
No, the
Front steer.
Front steer car, rear steer car.
I've always drove the rear steer. Yeah, we made a front steer. Travis, he got one, but it didn't. That's when it
Wizard
changed
car.
the body.
It was a. I don't know what you'd call it.
It's front and rear's all right.
Yeah,
But
it
it's different. But that's what I always drove my whole career.
You drove the
racing.
rear steer.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. A guy told me the difference. That I can tell you that you'd understand real easy. You take a wagon, like a little red wagon, you got one knee in it, and you're pushing with the other foot on the ground, and you're steering it. That's a rear steer. Okay, the front steer, somebody gets in front and pulls you. Well, it ain't going to turn over when somebody's pulling you when you're doing the same turn. But when it cuts twice as fast, a rear steer does. So that's the reason it's easier to drive a front
We got a
steer.
rear steer car from Tom Pistone. Couldn't do nothing with it. Do you remember
Oh,
it?
yeah, I know it.
That was pretty early in the running.
Yeah.
I think we run it. No, it wasn't.
I think it's basically the relation of the upper control arm maybe to the steering box where it is in the car. There.
Yeah, they Banjo Matthews, his cars, most of them, I don't really say, I don't know for sure, but the ones that we got that was there was a front steer. But then Leo, he relocated the steering box, the angle and all, and Banjo did too. They both, I think, kind of worked that. And it's a pretty good deal. It was good. You know, the difference is a rear steer car will turn easy, and it on its own. And a front steer car is a easier to drive car. It's more smoother. It don't quick. And but that's just what I drove, and that's what I got used to all the years before that. We went 200 races in Pistone's car and had that chassis.
Yeah, how about that?
And old Tom, we had a 57 Chevrolet, so that's rear steer. 58 Chevrolets is front steer. So in the rear steer car, it's like you're sitting in the seat, steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's like holding a wagon tongue. It's going to turn when you turn it, but if you turn it too sharp, it's going to turn up.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, for sure. So I was going to ask, what did, hold on, I had one of these.
There's a couple questions in here too.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, go ahead and ask those because I'll get to one.
So Thomas Colvert says, Bandit's fastest speeding ticket in the big truck.
80.
That's not bad.
It was bad because the speed limit was 75 in Deming, New Mexico at midnight. We had raced in Phoenix and was on the way back. There was 10 of us in a row, and I happened to be in front.
Oh, you were the front.
And he pulled me over and gave me a ticket for 80 and a 75.
Oh,
Speed limit 75 out there in the desert. So that was my big one.
So I was going to ask, did you get the other question there? Or?
No,
Okay.
I was actually in. Okay. So T-Chap says, how involved was Hal Needham with the team when he owned it? How involved was Hal with the team?
He was there every week.
Yeah, he'd come in every week from California every week, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I remember meeting him in the shop when I went to the shop one time.
He come to every race,
Yeah, he was very involved.
James S. says, Mr. Gant, was Skip Pollock involved with you in your early days, or am I mistaken?
Who?
Skip Pollock.
Skip Pollock. Do you remember Skip Pollock?
He was with Joe Frazone.
Yeah, he was with Joe Frazone when you drove Frazone's car at Charlotte.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was the crew
yeah,
chief on it.
Yeah, I drove for Son's car, Pontiac. Yeah, he wanted me to drive, more. And but we finished the race, I don't know, about 15th, I believe, out of 40-some, 600 miles on the race. But when I drove for Son's car, he built it down at Pistones. I'd seen it and he said I could drive it then. And so what we done, we went down there on Wednesday and practiced some, I believe it. Well, then I went home Thursday and I went to Kingsport. I went to Columbia, South Carolina, and we run a 200-lap race down there. I won it in my car. Then I come back home, went back to Charlotte. We get home at daylight when you go to Columbia down there. It's just so late, and you had to eat, and you stop for the truck stop. So we get up and go to work. And then I went back down there, and we qualified, but we didn't make the first 20. Well, I had to hurry up and leave, and they went on to Lonesome Pine Speedway. No, it was Kingsport Speedway. So I drove all the way up there, and that was a 200-lap race and won it. And come back down there, but we had a modified going to run too, and something happened to it at practice, and they pulled the engine out. My guys that worked for me while I practiced, qualified for Son's car, and so they took it to Asheville, and he called down the racetrack by the time we was leaving and said it's okay. He just all it done was broke a valve head or something, or not a valve head, but a spring. And he'd leave it hanging outside, inside, the keys outside to come and get it. Well, I'm about the only one that could go get it. And going from Charlotte up there to Asheville was not like it is now, man. It took forever to get there. And so I got there about 2 o'clock in the morning. The key was there and the engine's there, and we built a box, a wooden frame to set it in. And that old van had a motor in the middle, but your feet's up front of it, and the throttle's down here, but it works way back here at the back. And it's just thin metal. I had it covered in carpet because it made a place to sit. And so I get back over to Interstate 40, and I'm heading to Charlotte, and I didn't go up that way. Well, they construction when I'm coming down through there, but it's 2 or 3 o'clock, about 3 o'clock in the morning then. And so I just went around the barricade and just went on down through there. And I'm just going down through there, and I got really sleepy and got worse and worse. And I dozed off. And when I looked up, I was looking right straight at a bulldozer blade.
Oh, no.
And I slammed the brakes on, and that motor come flying up through there and smashed the back of that box, and that's where the throttle linkage goes. And it jammed it wide open, and my nose hurt so bad I couldn't breathe. It busted the steering wheel, and so I turned it. The ramp was coming off there, coming right off. And I'm just going to turn and go up it and get on the other side. There's one of them metal posts. They went wham, and it went up in there and bent that post. It come over, had my nose was bleeding. And I finally got up on top up there, and I got the thing switched off, and I got it there and pushed that thing back and got that lid. It was all smashed up, got it up, and beat that thing back where the throttle would work, and got back in it. But I'm on the same side of the road, but it made 2 lanes down there, and I come back over, and I come down the road, and I was just getting sleepier and sleepier and sleepier. And I come on down, I on 77, I pulled over on the side of the road a little bit. It's getting daylight. And I went to sleep, and I could feel it. I was laid over on that old motor, and I could feel it moving. I looked, and I'm coasting. I was out of gear.
Oh, no.
That woke me up. I went to the motel. We stayed all night there, and I said, it's yours. And I just took a shower and went to the racetrack. Well, then we got there and qualified, and then Saturday, come back home, and we won Columbia and we won Kingsport, Tennessee, and run Hickory Saturday night, and I finished second at Hickory Saturday night, and went back down there, and then run for Son's car. I don't know, it was 5 or 6 hours. I don't know which race it was. And after run that car, and then come home, and they was working on the sportsman car that we run Friday night in it, Saturday night at Hickory, and we working on it to go to Bristol Memorial Day. So we go to Bristol, and I ain't slept since Wednesday night.
Wow.
And went to Bristol, and it's hot. We thought we could sleep, but they moved all the trucks outside after we unhooked and unload our stuff in there. And I thought I could sleep in it, but you couldn't sleep, you know. And the race wasn't until that night. And we got up there about noon. Everybody was there. They would run 300 laps, and we're leading the race. And down the backstretch, it's got a concrete wall, blocks painted, and you got 8, you know, going in the first turn, right where you hugging the wall pretty good. It's got an offset of 4 inches, like from 8 to 12, and it's got the cement sort of tapered it in. And I just getting so sleepy, and we was leading the race, and I was come down there, and the right rear tire hit that thing, blowed the tire out, and the car spun around, went down the apron, come flying back up into the guardrail. Had guardrail there then. And smashed that guardrail, make my trunk way up in there, knocked that back window out of there, come back down the track, and it was still running. So I went around the track, you know, and went into pits. Everybody did, changed tires, and come back out, and so I still back up front, you know. And, so they take off again, run 100 miles. It's 300 lap race, and then another 100 miles. You know, you sit there, you know, Gail knows, he's drove at night lately, you know, you can just about think I could close my eyes and kind of tell.
One eye at a time.
And I hit
David,
that
one
same
at a
place
time.
now, again, and done the same twirl and come back down, took off real fast, went in the pits, changed tires, come back out, and got back in the lead. And I'm running out there, and we get down towards the end of the race, and I was running Firestone tires, and Tommy Houston was running second. He's a lap down with Firestone tires. And Firestone man, Gene Petty, he would travel with us. So what we done there, he said, let Tommy go by, you know, but like no laps hardly to go. You know, okay. And I most didn't go by. And I sat back there a little while, and I ain't never won a race letting somebody go by, even a 10-lap lead.
Yeah, don't work
so
that
I
way.
passed him back, and I come down through there, and it's like 2 laps. And, you know, I hit that same place again, and I got a whole lap lead. Tommy went wham by me, and I spun around and was going for the white flag. Well, he got it, and I spun around here, but my tires blowed out, and I make it by there behind him. But I can't do it 50, and he just was gone. And I come. That's the longest half mile I ever made. I just watched him go down the back stretch, and I'm doing 50. He's like, wow! And I hurried like that, and I come off the corner, and that tire, I just mashed it down. That tire come off the rim, and it started into a turn, bar flying off of that rim. And I went across start-finish line backwards, and Tommy, he was that way like that, and we went across like that, and I had him back like that much.
Wow.
And I won the race.
That's crazy.
And they tore us down. We left there at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know who protested? Darryl.
Wow.
And, yeah, it was. That was a long week, but we won all but
Sound like it.
with the Winston Cup. We didn't win it, but we finished. I think we finished 15th or 12th, but you know, pretty good really for that car and all. And then it's a new car he built there, but then we won them all but one.
I was thinking Skip told me y'all finished 10th.
It might have been. I
pretty sure
thought
he
we
did.
sat in that truck a long time. He wanted to make, you know, we could get a sponsor, we could go places, you know. I just want to get home. And then I sat out there. Yeah, I was solid, tired. I said, we ain't gonna never be that lucky, wreck that many times.
That Chuck Gay car that you run at Talladega, I think Travis ended up moving it over to Jabo's house. I think it was I don't know. It might still be there. Have you been over there?
That's the car we took to Mexico, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it. Same one.
Yeah, well, Hamm won the Baja race down there, Baja, Mexico, wasn't it?
Yeah,
On that-
La
on this-
Carrera.
Yeah,
La Carrera.
and you run what you brung. Is that right, Gail?
I like that.
Yeah.
You run what you
He was
brung.
determined he was going to win that thing, beat that guy had the bonsai Cadillac out in California, and he
Never
never even
showed
showed up. But Hal won the race.
He built, Travis had a motor built up there, you know, out of stuff, junk stuff, just to go run that race.
Yeah.
It was big, you know.
It was about a 380
Yeah.
something.
Oh, Hal asked me, he's always real subtle on stuff, you know, when he asks you something, he's really thinking really hard. And he says, he called me Gant about all the time. He said, Gant, how fast do you think that car would go? I said, on straight road, 200. And he said, does that feel real fast? I said, no. And so they go out there and unload, and that road went up and down.
Yeah.
Well, the young road though didn't, and an old man take off on a motorcycle, and his helmet, goggles blowed off. I believe JB said, and Hal's going to try that thing out. And they was turning around in the road to pick. I come back home, and Hal said, he said, you know, I think you lied to me on that. Well, I said, I'm talking about going down a 100-foot wide racetrack. And I didn't know how wide that road race. Yeah, Hal said it looked like a rope. And he said, that thing, he got it up somewhere to 170, and he said it looked like a string in front of me there.
Kenny put a 300-mile-an-hour speedometer in it.
Yeah, I put a speedometer in it.
He said, "Are you kidding me? 200 miles an hour."
I think Kenny, I believe you told us that story about the speedometer.
Well, it was metric.
Oh, okay.
And I went to Carolina Rim and Wheel, and they made me a gear for it. And I got it where it was accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But that was back in the early days.
So, speaking of early days, when did you start at Hamm and Moody? In 63 or so?
63.
Okay. And we've seen your paycheck stub because it's in that book, the Hamm and Moody book.
100 hour a week. Sorry, did I say that loud enough?
No, it was 114.
114.
114 hours that week.
Mm-hmm. And I think you made what was the average? $3 an hour, something like that.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Thereabouts. So you worked at Hamm and Moody for how did you get? Yeah, well, how did you get started at Hamm and Moody?
I was just out there. I just happened to be there. My father worked there, and I went out there messing around. And John Holman asked me. He said, "Well, you're out here just kind of hanging around. Why don't you go to work?" So I remember drilling some bolts, safety wiring, little small bolts. I don't know, for something. I forgot what it was. I did that for 2 days, drilling holes. But it was pretty good to me.
Yeah. What did you do next?
Well, he sent me to Ford Motor Company. He contracted me out somehow to Ford, and I lived in a motel. Worked at Ford Motor Company, but I was working for Holman Moody. And I did that for 7 months. And I called up John Holman on the telephone, told him I was quitting. I just wanted to go to work for Ford Motor Company. And he was pretty nice about it. He said, if you ever come back and decide you want a job, come on by. But I never did.
So what special project did they have you doing out there?
Oh, just emissions testing. That was about 72. That's about when they had emission trouble.
Gotcha.
Well, how did the GT40s work into that? They wanted you to...
I did that later on.
Okay.
I did GT40s at my home.
Yes.
I did 2 of one kind, Mark IIs. Then I did 7 Mark IVs, 6 Mark IVs, and then 1 J car. That's what they called it.
Okay.
I sold all of them.
That was a 7-year project.
7 years.
7 cars, 7 years.
Well, yeah, it's from nothing.
Yeah. From nothing, yes. You built them from scratch.
Yeah.
Looked at a book. That's it.
A blueprint.
The book.
Okay. One or the other.
I had both.
Yeah. Okay. A picture and a blueprint. And he made the cars. What did you not make on the cars? I mean, the wheels?
Well, the wheels, I had that done somewhere.
Okay.
Had that cast, and they were, I think, about $800 a wheel to have them made. And I made enough for 7 cars with some spares.
Wow.
What did you say it was? Mark what?
A Ford. They had a Mark II. They had a Mark II, Mark IV, and then a J car. They built 2 J cars. Ken Miles got killed in one of them, testing it at Riverside. And I made the other one. They put in a machine and twisted it. Like a wind tunnel, but it would twist the car and see how strong it was, because the whole chassis was aluminum honeycomb. It was pretty strong. But,
So that Ford versus Ferrari movie, have you seen that yet?
yeah.
What'd you think about it?
Well, I guess it was okay. I went to Tex Powell. I don't know whether you've had him in here.
Yeah. No, I've not had him in here, but we were talking to him at the reunion over at Hendricks.
Yeah.
About a month ago or so. Tex Powell was there. Yeah. What was his involvement?
Tex was, I think he was in charge of the car that you run stand too.
Yeah.
At one race. I
Yeah.
think might have been Rockingham or.
Yeah, one race there. We was flying somewhere, and he had this big buckle.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and it's got a gun, you know. It looks like a gun. And so we go through and everything and get in the airplane, you know. And I said, that thing looks like a really gun.
Yeah.
Gun. He went click, click.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
We sat on the airplane then going.
Wow. That's funny.
Popped right out there.
Stand didn't last long.
No.
I think 3 or 4 races.
You know, at Rockingham, Stan wrecked over there coming off of 2, and put the caution out and everything. Somebody said, "You think he's hurt?" I don't know. He's standing right here. He jumped the fence and run across the infield before the ambulance ever got over to the car, I guess.
Well, before the race started, we had the letters on the car, numbers on the car, and they had a black outline. And he didn't want that. He had to take all that off, and I forgot what color we put them. But we had to change the numbers. He didn't like the black outline.
So T-Chap says, Harry, did you give Rick Mass anything special for pushing you to the win at Talladega? He's being funny. He also says, Harry, didn't you hit a tire rolling down the track at Bristol that launched your car? Did you ever hit a tire and it launched you?
Yeah.
Yeah. He remembers that.
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times.
Well, and it's bad if the tire's rolling when you hit it, right? I mean, because it's...
No, but when it's laying flat, it's not good. You think you're going to knock it on down out of the way.
Yeah.
It just does this.
Oh, okay.
Shoots you straight up in the air.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No fun. No bueno. Yeah.
All I can say is I've hit tractor trailers, stuff in the road before.
Tracy, you actually bent a tire on your car, or actually cracked a tire on your car before. So
That was not me.
I don't know how she did that, but she did it.
I found this photo a couple months ago from I'm going to say it was the 65 or 66 World 600 at Charlotte, where Jake Thomas ran over a tire, and in the picture you could see the car like going up in the air. That's what that reminded me of.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw one. Somebody had one, and they did it on the interstate. Anyway, it was one of those cameras they had, and anyway, the car just disintegrated and went everywhere.
So Gail, talking about the only 5 miles and over speeding. Dwayne Colvert is the one that was asking. He says, "Come on now, I drove with you in the 10 truck."
Well,
So he's saying, yeah, you just didn't get
Yeah.
caught every other time.
That's
that
Dwayne.
was the biggest speeding ticket I got. I didn't
Yeah.
say how fast I'd been.
Yeah,
That's true.
Dwayne drove the tide hauler
We saw Dwayne
the other night.
2 days
night.
Friday night.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was here at our live concert.
Harry rode, you and Johnny Hayes rode from Pocono home with me one time or somewhere.
Yeah.
And Johnny rode with me to Nashville one time. But I remember y'all riding with me back from Pocono. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't do that very often, though. The drivers ride with the truck drivers, right? I mean, how often did you have a driver ride with you?
Just on the long West Coast trips.
No, I mean the actual driver. Not I'm talking about the race car driver.
Oh, just Harry and Kenny Schrader and Ann and his 2 kids rode back from Atlanta with me one time.
Okay.
His son, this little fellow then, he said, "I want to ride in that truck."
Yeah.
Kenny said, "Hey, can we ride home with you and I'll send my plane home?"
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I
been on
think,
that plane.
if I'm not mistaken, Sterling rode with our truck driver Hard Times one time, and I believe he ended up he wanted to drive, and he broke the transmission out of it or something like that.
No.
But then Sterling had to go have an appearance, so he ended up getting a ride. I think it was to Darlington or somewhere. He had this old lady pulled over, and she gave him a ride to the racetrack.
He got
Yeah,
a ride from an old lady. How cute.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a side note there. All right, Dan, did we cover everything talking about your dad's stuff? You got it? Okay, good. Did you want to talk about anything else, Kenny?
No, nothing in particular.
Well, you got a lot of memories and a lot of things that
I've been
you've
doing it as long as Harry has anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Dad started his career at 14.
Yeah, right, exactly. And speaking of driving, you used to have to drive to the racetracks. I mean, you didn't just jump in a plane and fly,
Oh,
right?
no.
Yeah.
What about Riverside, California? Did you fly out there or drive?
Flew.
You flew out to Riverside,
I
okay.
never drove there, no.
Okay. Did you ever meet Tim Richmond?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or Marty Robbins? I always like asking about Marty Robbins because that's one of my favorite all-time singers.
Marty run Charlotte. You remember when he raced Charlotte?
Yeah.
And he had a restrictor plate and a Dodge, one of Petty's cars.
Yeah, 15 mile an hour faster.
I'd like to stay all night before the race at Charlotte, to have a motel instead of driving. You just can't get in. I like not ever got to this racetrack one morning. I had to get on the grass, and just drive down. Everybody blowing the horn and hollering at me, and I put my helmet on and went all the way to the racetrack. I was going to be stuck way back on 40, and went down through there and that's all we could get in,
Yeah.
Marty Robbins was racing at Charlotte, and I got back to the hotel late, and went down to the restaurant, and there was just 2 or 3 couples in there, and Marty and the man that traveled with him that had that long hair, he sung back.
I've seen him, yeah.
And they were just sitting there, and I just ordered my food, and so he comes over to me, and the only body left was us. And he said, "Would you sit with Marty? I got to go somewhere till I come back." I said, "Yeah."
Sure.
Marty, I went over and sat down. I asked him questions all night long. Tell me, I sat there.
Yeah.
He didn't come back till about 10 o'clock. And he raced that day, Marty did. But I was asking him all about the traveling and what they done. And he told me that one of the songs, El Paso, draw the smallest crowd, and that's a big hit he had in El Paso.
Paso
But
City,
he told me, he didn't travel after east or west of Mississippi anymore. Just used the bus, and he was just interested. He told me all about Roy Acuff, how the Texas Ritter started the Grand Ole Opry. He just kept answering my questions.
I know Donnie Ellison had said that he used to stay at the hotel on Little Rock Road, the Holiday Inn there, and I was around 1980 or so, and I was like, man, I lived right down the street from there. Had I known
If
Marty.
only we knew.
Yeah, right.
How close
That's
we
where
were.
we was at that that coal miner had a helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
When I was driving the coal miner's car, and he called me up and he said, "Is there a place to land a helicopter out here?" I taught that Holiday Inn there.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, yeah, pretty good, you know." And everybody's out there at that swimming pool, and here comes this helicopter down. It's dry and dusty, you know. Boy, did he dust out the people out there. And he landed right there beside that swimming pool.
Wow. I bet that was crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What about you, Kenny? Who's your stories of Marty Robbins or Tim Richmond? Who was a person that you were hung around with that was, let's say, Burt Reynolds or something like that?
Burt Reynolds, the only time I remember him is at Atlanta. It's the only time I ever saw him.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. So he didn't come around much.
Well, I had my picture made with him.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a picture made with him.
That was it, as far as I know of.
We saw him at the premiere. You took me to the premiere. He was at the premiere with Lonnie, Jim Neighbors, when they were doing Stroker Ace.
Old Jim Neighbors, he made that movie with Burt now, and I got to talk to him a lot.
Oh, yeah. I bet that was interesting.
Didn't he sing for the Indy 500? Wasn't he the one who did that?
He could really sing.
Every year, yeah, he could sing.
Yeah, it's just so funny, you know, how they do, and all them people that just like us, you know, just regular people. And there he's telling me about, you know, and there's one time he was doing something that I forget what the name of the movie was. It's like a gangsters. You know, it was out west. It's hot. This guy, he was on one of the late shows at night, and he had this dog that could climb this tree.
Oh.
And he carried an old shopping bag, and had his shoes uncut, big old brogans untied. And so Burt seen it and wanted him to put him in one of the movies, you know, and he put him in the movie. And Hal always take me to the movie, you know, a couple of days. And he sat down beside of me and he said, "Can you believe," he's from South Carolina, and he's got a bird hunting thing that he's telling me right there. He said, "That they paying us to come here and sit here $200 a day." He's so funny, though. He just carried that old shopping bag around all the time.
I remember going to the Indy 500 in 1964. 1964, flew up there and had a wreck first lap. Let's see, who was it that got killed? Parnelli? No.
It was McDonald, I think.
Yeah. McDonald was one of them, and there was someone else. Eddie Sachs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the front stretch. Yeah, I remember that.
And you went a few years ago, right?
Yeah, Dan and I went.
Yeah. How was that trip? Bring back memories?
Yeah.
So you built a car that was a replica, I guess it was, the red car?
That was
Streamlined.
1955. That was a 55. It had a Maserati engine in it. And I sold it
And then
Fort
you
Lauderdale.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I sold it at Fort Lauderdale. And I had a twin-engine dragster. You've never seen this one yet. Had two SB2 Chevrolets in it, kind of at a 44-degree angle. But it's in the museum at Don Miller Museum.
The flywheel's meshed and one turns backwards.
Yeah, one engine will run backwards.
They share the oil pan.
Who would have thought to do that, you know?
Yeah, you should see
Who would have thought to do that?
Yeah, you should see the headers on that thing too. And you also did a '62 Falcon, right? '62, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And you turned the front bumper. It was turned upside down.
Yeah, that was a 4-cam, like they ran at Indianapolis. Ford 4-cam.
Yeah, the Indy engine with the exhaust that comes out of the center.
Yeah, the exhaust come out of the middle
Yeah.
and kind of went down in front. And I had a turbo there, and it went through a turbo to exhaust on any side.
What was your favorite car that you built, Dad?
Well, I don't know. I built a lot of them.
I know.
through the
Any one
years.
that you wish you would have kept? Any that you wish you would have kept?
A lot of them.
But money talks, right?
Yeah.
I sold one, that J car.
Yes, you were going to keep that one.
Yeah, I sold it 3 or 4 years ago to a guy in California. It was $800,000. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
True.
I didn't think you worked. I didn't know you worked at Hamm and Moody.
I worked there 10 years.
Yeah.
Started sweeping floors.
You worked for Lorenzen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was one of my heroes, Freddie Lorenzen and Rex White always.
Yeah. Old Rex, he's still living.
Yeah. I don't think he's in too good a shape, though.
What do you have any? Do you remember Fred Lorenzen? Any stories to tell about him? No, he was a good driver.
Yeah. Well, he had good equipment.
Yeah,
That's what it was back then.
Yeah,
Hamm and Moody, they had everything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they made rear-end housings for everybody. Rims. They did it all.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the
Hutch used to drive for them.
Yeah.
yeah. And so before Hamm and Moody, it was Schumann Thompson, and that was going to be that was going to be the Hamm and Moody.
Yeah.
Until Buddy Schumann
Got killed at Hickory, burned up in a motel.
Yeah.
That's tragic.
Was you up there then? That would have been 1955.
No. I remember him getting killed. I hadn't watched a 55. I watched that Darlington race was on the speedway. But everybody raced at Hickory, though. That was fun.
So, Harry, if you hadn't have been a race car driver, what would you have done otherwise
The first
for a
one.
living? If you hadn't have been a race car driver, what would you have done for a living? I know you've roofed
I
and
built houses. Mm-hmm. I built, and before that I picked cotton.
yeah,
Did you?
yeah.
Oh yeah. Everybody around there raised tobacco. We raised cotton. All the thing worked.
Well, you don't have that steakhouse anymore, do you?
No. My wife them and daughters, they run it now, and it had about 21 years, and I liked it. All I done was wash the windows and blow the parking lot off. And they just got tired, but it's just hard to get help. Mm-hmm. And that guy there in town, he owned it there, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Well, somebody, I don't know what it is now, some funny word. Well, ain't many people there. The man that bought it for that, though, he done pretty good. His wife passed away,
Somebody said Fred Lorenzen has dementia now.
Yeah, he's not real sharp.
Yep. Was there any more questions coming in?
I didn't see any questions.
Okay.
Scott Trevison says, does Harry have any racing stories about him and Sterling Marlin? Did you race with Sterling any?
Yeah,
Sterling
you raced with
Marlin?
Sterling Marlin. Do you have any Sterling Marlin stories? Anything about him that you can tell on the radio? Yeah. Most people say they
he
can't.
raced some with us. Was doing a Saturday night, Friday night before the race. If it's a close racetrack around dirt track or something, go race.
Somebody told me he's moved from Columbia, Tennessee, to another town. Did you hear that?
Well, no, he's not actually moved. He's got a farm out there in Columbia area, but there, yeah.
I think he's moved.
I've never really been around him.
Okay, yeah.
It's just a racetrack.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those questions that comes up almost every show. Do you have a Sterling Marlin story? That's one of the things. Yeah. It comes up.
Yeah.
I worked with Sterling, so did Scott, and so.
I drove the Maxwell House truck the last year that he drove the Maxwell House car up at Virginia.
Yeah, okay. That was was that the year he had he got in that fiery crash?
No.
Okay.
92.
That was the second half of the 92 season.
Okay. Yeah, second half. All right. Well, do y'all have any thing to tell the fans out there tuning in right now? And then also hit that thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. This video will be on here from now on, and you can go back and comment and ask questions if you're watching this tomorrow or the next day or the next day. And then we'll make sure that Harry gets those questions, or Ken or Gail. So if y'all have any questions, put them on there. Yeah.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for helping out Bryson and Christian over there. Here, I'll put the camera on y'all so y'all can say something. There you go.
Yeah, thanks for having us back. I'll go to Christian in a second. Harry and Gail and Kenny, it's great to have you back. Finally good to have somebody from Taylorsville up in here, so I like that.
I hadn't seen Kenny since we quit racing.
No, I saw you at Johnny Hayes when they had a little memorial for Johnny Hayes. I didn't talk to you. I saw you there.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, yeah.
I was just going to say, it's great to meet y'all, and thanks for sharing all the stories. There was a lot of things that, like, I've never heard before, a lot of things that, great stories, and to be able to hear and everything, and, yeah.
All right.
Thank you. I don't really have anything else to add other than what Bryce said. He pretty much said what I was going to say.
All right, there. Good job.
Well, I mean, being from Taylorsville, I mean, you got to know who Harry Gant is, and these guys were right there with him. So it's been a real fun time. So thank you guys for coming up here.
I've certainly enjoyed being here with my two all-time heroes.
This ain't on the radio now, is it?
Yeah, we're on the radio.
Well, I rode with Henry to California, Riverside in the truck.
Yeah.
And
I remember that too.
Yeah, well, Henry lives not too far from here, so he's probably listening in.
We keep telling him to come on the show since he's so close.
He let me drive, and that had that double deal trailer behind a box, and he pulled that cord back there in where you could talk in a sleeper. And I'm just driving, and so I believe Shorty might have been with us too.
Shorty Edwards.
Yeah. But anyway, I was getting close to California there, and that thing was just not driving good at all. And I never had drove a truck before. He had shown me how to do the gears here, and I just took off and somebody passed us going up a hill, and he said pass on back and all that, but it just got worse by the time we got into California. And you got to go through all that curves and stuff. And pull over up here, and the trailer tar had been fat for so long, I done tore it all up.
Oh my gosh!
That wasn't my cup of tea. I figured I was going to get to sleep all the way in California. Then the next time I went with him again, I know I'm with him this time. Me and him took off up in front, and he said, you want to drive a little bit? And I said, okay. That's when they had the regular truck.
Yeah.
And so got out of there and took off, and I stopped and I went through the gears again. About that time, that curtain opened up where I thought I was going to be in there, big juniors. What's going on here? And so I'm letting Harry drive a little bit. I said, yeah, I'm kind of having a little trouble. I never had trouble truck.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many gears he had in it.
That Chevrolet truck you talking about, you drove the first time out there, the first trip I made in a race truck was in that truck with Henry. We went to California and we was coming back, and we just come out of California into Arizona, and I blew the left front tire, steer axle tire on that thing, running 70 miles an hour. And I said, ooh.
That's what, you think about that. There's high.
Yeah.
When I got stopped, the tire was turned kind of crossways on the rim. It was flat. I got stopped. I looked back over at the sleeper, and Henry was sitting straight up. He wasn't saying anything.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Henry.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll have to do this again sometime. It's a lot of fun.
Love to.
Yeah. Love to hear the stories.
It's great hearing stories.
Yeah, and thank y'all so much for coming out and telling us these stories. And that's what a lot of our friends on YouTube are saying right now too. Great stories, and thanks again for doing this. And thank y'all for coming out. And we will see y'all next time we do this. Next week. What are y'all doing next Monday? I'm just kidding. We better get out of here so you can go to Hardee's.
Yeah, I gotta go
Before they close.
Get to Hardee's.
All right. So y'all have a great weekend. We'll see
We
y'all
got a
next
2.5-year-old great granddaughter,
Uh-huh.
and it's Saturday to keep her today.
Oh.
And of course,